First though, Roman mosaics, Byzantine pottery, ancient sculptures, just some of the world's most priceless artefacts, and ones which are targeted by terrorists and criminal gangs, most recently of course in Syria and Iraq. Stolen items have been turning up in Europe and the US, where they've then been offered to private collectors. It's an illicit trade, of course, and it's worth millions of dollars, but an innovative solution may now be at hand. It is something that's invisible to the naked eye, but detectable under ultraviolet light. It gives the artefacts a unique, identifiable code, and Syrian archaeologists have just begun painting some of the country's most valuable artefacts with this. Well, let's get some more on it, because the technology is provided by SmartWater, the British crime prevention firm, whose co-founder and director, Phil Cleary, joins me here in the studio. And I should say the project's been overseen by the renowned Syrian archaeologist, Professor Amr Al-Azam, who joins us from Ohio, and we'll speak to the professor in just a moment. Phil, thanks for coming in, and you've got a suitable artefact here, just to show us what it is you're doing, if you can just explain it.
Yeah, sure, David. This is a replica of an artefact, and the problem that we analysed was we wanted to create a Damocles sword over the First World buyers who were funding the crimes in Syria and Iraq by paying for the stolen items, either knowing or believing them to be stolen. And the way we did that is we apply a forensic fingerprint unique to that location, so that in the future, if there's any doubt about ownership, it can prove through forensic analysis. And simply, for law enforcement officers to actually detect SmartWater, they use a UV black light, and they just switch it on, and there is the solution glowing bright yellow under the UV black light.
Okay, take the light away and back again, and back again.
There you go.
Right, okay, so it's like a sort of luminescent effect.
And we only need a speck, a piece of dust really, to be able to analyse and prove where it came from. And that will put some doubt into the mind of these first world purchasers that any time in the future, if they do buy this stuff, a police officer could be knocking on the door and say, we can prove that's stolen. Yeah,
now you've still got the challenge of getting it marked up, haven't you? And there's been a team that's taken on that challenge. Tell me very briefly about that.
Well, through an intermediary, I was connected with Amar, who very quickly saw the opportunity to protect Syrian's heritage using this technology, but it took some organising, and he's got a great team working in Syria in difficult circumstances who went ahead and did it for us.
So that's a brave thing to do. Let's bring the professor in, actually. Thanks very much for joining us as well, Professor. I can understand why you'd certainly welcome this. I suppose it's also realistic to say it's come pretty late in a conflict and it's only getting into certain areas.
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, we could have used this 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, obviously. But right now we need it desperately. The trade in looted antiquities is a real scourge. The damage that's being done to Syria's cultural heritage is untold, and we've been really fortunate in that SmartWater Foundation through Phil has essentially been really generous in doing this donation and allowing us to have access to this fantastic substance. And I think a really important new tool in our arsenal to try and limit the looting and of cultural heritage artifacts from Syria. And if we can, demonstrate that, and I'm sure it will have applications in other areas of conflict too. And I would add that
there's no end to its application, is there, in the years ahead? I understand that. The other problem, though, you have, of course, is not just you can mark whatever you like. If they want to destroy it, they destroy it.
Yes, of course, but remember that those individuals who do this kind of destruction do it often to materials that they cannot sell. So whilst we cannot protect what is unsellable, so ISIS, for example, usually destroys artifacts or monuments that they cannot profit from financially, but we can at least try to protect what is to them a financial concern. And this is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to both minimize or make it less profitable for people to actually loot. But more importantly, and this is something that Phil touched on, is the ability to be able to trace and determine where this originally came from, so that 5, 10, 15 years from now, when these items do start to show up on the international market, we can actually now be able to prove that they came from Syria, and not as perhaps the seller trying to claim from illegitimate action.
And the message very much, you have been warned, Phil, to all those, as you were saying, out there. It seems like a slightly unlikely match, perhaps. How did this come about? What was the catalyst for you here?
Well, I think we were all touched by the murder of Khalil al-Assad in Palmyra all those years ago, and basically he was trying to protect Syria's artifacts and gave his life in doing so. And it stimulated me to think about how we could help. And the foundation has, we're a small foundation, we haven't got vast amounts of money, but we thought this was an urgent problem. And through an intermediary in America, they put us in touch with Omar, and he immediately saw the opportunity in terms of protecting Syria's heritage.
And briefly, do you foresee more ventures into perhaps more dangerous areas to try and do more of the same?
Yes, I mean, this is an ongoing program. We can't give details about where we're going to be operating for obvious reasons, because there's people's lives at risk, but we will continue to support Syria wherever we can.
Okay, Phil Cleary, thank you very much indeed. Professor Amar, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.